Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Political Roundup on VOP TV. I'm your host, Sumto Ajama. The Political Roundup is your premier destination for in-depth analysis of today's most critical political issues and their profound impact on society. Join us as we navigate complexities of the political arena with our team of seasoned analysts bringing a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the forefront. Before delving into today's discussions, we'll offer a comprehensive overview of the key topics shaping the political landscape, ensuring that you're well prepared and equipped to engage with the day's most significant conversations. We'll start off with President Bola Tinubu approving the National Anthem Bill 2024, reinstating the old anthem, Nigeria, We Hail Thee. VOP TV reports that Senate President Godswill Akpabio disclosed this on Wednesday at a joint session of the National Assembly, marking the silver jubilee of Nigeria's Fourth Republic. Senate President Akpabio explained that the session's main purpose is to launch the new national anthem, and President Tinubu will not be making a speech as he needed to depart to launch the Abuja Metro line. The Senate and the House of Representatives had already passed the bill in separate sessions. Now, most definitely, this is a critical subject of conversation. And of course, we'll not be discussing this alone. We'll be talking to our guests today. This is especially important, as I've said already. And we have an in-house guest and a virtual guest. Joining us this evening is Mr. Peter Anosike. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And of course, we also have Mr. Dapo Thomas joining us this evening virtually. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so talking about the subject of the national anthem, this is especially important at this particular moment, given that there are essential issues that we need to speak about when it comes to this particular subject. Being that the old national anthem was one that most people in this current generation do not know, and the new national anthem, or the current national anthem, is what people understand as the national anthem. Now, critics are saying that this was just the government trying to distract Nigerians from focusing on the hardship that they are battling with by forcing them to learn the old national anthem, calling it a misplacement of priorities. Some of the opinion that it is simply a backward integration, sacrificing a homegrown national anthem for a colonially imposed national anthem. But before we go on, there is a report that is especially critical to this conversation. But let's skip that and just come right to the issue of this conversation. Why was this even a proposed bill in the first place? Now, of course, the president has signed this or assented to this already, but why was this even a proposed bill before the Senate and the House of Reps at all? Why did this even come up in the first place? What is your perception of that, or what's your thoughts on that, Mr. Thomas?
I believe that we can always argue this out. One, is it the right time for this kind of monumental change in our national life? But after serious ruminations, I came to the conclusion that if we all agree, which I believe that everybody is saying, or maybe is a large spectrum, a high percentage of the citizenry believes that yes, the old anthem is better, but the timing is wrong. Is this what we need at this time and everything? I'm not saying that the problems we have come to stay permanently with us, but I believe that if we all agree that there is need to change this anthem, why not now? Just as they are asking, why now? So I'm asking, why not now? If it's going to be done at any point in time tomorrow or in future, then why can't we do it now and just forget about it and concentrate again on the prevailing problems? from the government side and then from the citizenry side. Everybody, there is no need to say that they are trying to distract us. We should not distract ourselves from the major problems, the fundamental problems of survival that we have, the prevailing fundamental problems that we have, the survival problems that we have in Nigeria. We should not distract ourselves. Let us forget about that. If the intention of government was to make us discuss this for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, then we have ourselves to blame if we fall into that kind of trap. Why not just forget about it as, okay, you have done it, so what next? This is not a football tournament where you play for 1 month, where you play for 2 months, and then you get distracted because you are facing other nations, and then you are anxious to see that your nation wins the cup. But in this case, they have done it. They have started singing it, and then why don't we forget about it and then concentrate? So the controversy around it is unnecessary as far as I'm concerned, because I've moved on. I will still discuss the problem of inflation. I will still discuss the problem of minimum wage. I don't want to discuss national anthem. It's been done. So right, the citizens themselves should not distract themselves. That's all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for making that known. Because just as you've said, a number of people have stated the fact that this could be some sort of distraction, some sort of negating the realities of what is happening to the average Nigerian. But I also want to know your thoughts on why this even came to be. Just like the question I asked Mr. Thomas, why did this even come to be? What's your thoughts on that? How did this even become a question in the first place?
Basically, I don't know how it came up and what inspired it. I don't know how the old national anthem came up and what inspired it. I agree quite all right that the old national anthem is more inspiring. At least there's a stanza or there's a verse there that says, though tribe and tongue may differ, but in brotherhood we stand. I love that verse very, very well. It is inspiring, but we said that that the best time is now. Understand me? Even if you say in the next 20 years, there will still be questions. Understand me? So they have done it. But it had not solved the hunger problem. Understand me? It has not solved inflation problem. They have done it. So for me, it shouldn't be a major discourse at all. Our problems are still there.
So you do agree that it's a gross misplacement of priorities?
No. For me, it should be a footnote in our national history. Understand me? It shouldn't be a front page news. Understand me? They have done it. Even if you bring up this in the next 20 years, people will still complain, why now?
But why did they even do this in the first place is my question.
That's why I don't know what...
The old national anthem, a lot of people are still talking about the fact that it is linked to colonialism and the fact that it was not even written by Nigerians to even begin with. So why is it the homegrown national anthem is being now discarded after all these years of independence back to the pre-colonial national anthem?
I say for me, the old one is more inspiring. And I told you that verse, understand me, that though tribe and tongue may differ, but in brotherhood we stand. Understand me? And there's another stanza that will say that another of truth and justice. So this old one is better than the new one.
Okay.
Understand me? So right. It is more inspiring. Understand? So, but even if they bring it up in the next 10 years or 20 years, there will still be this question. But it has not solved any problem in the country.
All right. Mr. Dr. Thomas, do you agree that the old national anthem was more inspiring? Because these are what the senators are talking about the fact that it encapsulates national values, it charts a course for unity. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, there is no doubt about it. There is no doubt that the old national anthem is better than this. The evolution and the kind of acceptability given to the Ariso compatriots by the military in 1978 was very, I mean, since 1978, I remember very well, since 1978, people have always been against this anthem, the Ariso compatriots. It has been known, it has been known. I think it's just time that it's just time that the Senate decided to do the needful. It has been known since. It has been known since 1978. Nobody ever accepted it fully, but you know, where you continue to sing it over time, then you believe that it is gone. But if some people rose up at a particular point in the history, of the nation, and decided that, look, this is the time we have to do this thing. If we don't do it now, we may even forget about it again. But let us do it, because this actually encapsulates the national values of Nigeria. And apart from that, it contains a lot of prayerful contents.
But so does the new national anthem. The new national anthem also contains prayers. It also inspires unity. It's also very familiar, and I'm talking about with the current generation actually. So I understand if there's that clash of opinions when it comes to whether the new one is more inspiring than the old one. But to move away from that just for a moment, something Mr. Anosike said, talking about the fact that it has not solved the issue of hunger, it has not solved the issue of inflation. And these are people who have spoken about the fact that it is a misplacement of priorities. I want to know your thoughts on that. Do you think that there are better issues that the Parliament, that the House of Assembly could have discussed, and at the speed at which this bill was passed into law, even with the President's assent, do you not think that there are better bills and acts that can be passed into law for the progress of the Nigerian people as opposed to the subject of the national anthem at this point in time?
I like the speed with which this had been passed. And it shows that if the government or the legislature really wants to do anything in the interest of the nation, then they can always in it in speed. So it has shown us, it's even enlightening, because it has shown us citizens that our government really knows what they can do, what they can do what they can do with speed and everything. So there is no excuse for anybody again to say that it will take time. No, when we will now remind them that when you wanted to pass the national anthem, you did it within a matter of 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever number of weeks, because nobody knew when they actually started reading. When they started, yes, nobody knew, But now let us just believe that they have done it. And they have also laid a precedent for the citizens to know that anything they desire, any bill that is of national interest, should also attract the same speed with which they handle this.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. Coming back to you, you have some thoughts.
I want to talk about that speed. It will be a very big, they don't know that's where they have put themselves by that speed. It will always continue to be a reference point. It will always continue to be a reference point. So they raise a very big bar for themselves. Tomorrow, if any legislation comes, they will be expected to use this same speed. If people are not saying 2 weeks, this happened under 48 hours. They did this under 48 hours. They gave it as in narrated hearing. So it is a precedent which they have set for themselves, which is going to be haunting them.
Exactly.
It's going to be haunting them. Nigeria will begin to tell them when it comes to frivolous issues.
You are quick to pass a bill.
Yes, but when it comes to important issues, you start done. So what they did will be haunting them.
But in response to that, there's a defense for that based on something you have said already. You said it should be used as a footnote, right? That was precisely what you said. So,
yes,
if the subject of speed comes up, they can say that this is just something we put as a basis for the things that we're about to work on. And for the more serious issues, maybe we need more time.
We'll continue to gauge them from this.
Yes, but if their defense is this is the yardstick and we have more serious issues that we need more time to dwell on and we need more people to listen to this, because again, this was not open for wider consultation.
There wasn't any consultation.
Precisely. So, but if there's any other serious issue, it will need wider consultation, because, or might need, let me put it that way, depending on the subject at hand. And if it's in need of wider consultation, then it will need to take more time. Then this defense of how speedy this was will not exactly come into play. What do you have to say concerning that, Mr. Dr. Thomas?
The issue is that if we tell them that and then their response is exactly what you have said, we will now tell them that you are representatives of the people. When something affects our interest, we expect you to know the speed with which you have to approach it. And then we don't expect you to now go into any kind of jamboree consultation. If it is in our national interest, let's take a hypothetical issue. If a minimum wage is arrived at, and then it needs a kind of legislative approval or stamp, this does not need further consultation, because they have started meeting now. They are not consulting with the people, and they have been meeting at whatever level, they have committee, they have everything. So when it gets to the assembly, I do not expect the National Assembly to now say, okay, let us go for consultation with the people. Which people? The labor people who are there in the committee, and then the government is there in the committee. There are certain moments that you should decide, that the citizens will decide to forfeit this kind of consultation if they know that speed is expedient in this kind of situation. So if you know how to, if you know what affects our national interest, if you feel, or if you felt that the national anthem was imperative, and then you gave it the kind of speed that it required, then you should know that the minimum wage or whatever, just like you said, that you do not know, depending on the circumstances or the nature or the character of the bill. So if you know that this bill is also of national interest to the people, then why not apply the same speed? So it will, yes, that's my position.
Thank you so much. What are your final thoughts on this?
We are on the same page.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go on to the next story. The Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, has called on relevant bodies to urgently scrutinize the professional conduct of both counsels and the judges involved in the unfolding emirship tussle in Kano State to determine their culpability or otherwise. While condemning the conduct of the court in the handling of the proceeding, which culminated in the orders issued by the Federal High Court, Kano State High Court, and again the Federal High Court in Circus over the emirship tussle, NBA said it has exposed the entire legal profession in Nigeria to public ridicule and opprobrium. A statement by the president of the NBA, Mr. Yakubu Chokono Maikawu, described the events as unfortunate and totally uncalled for, insisting that the damage done to the profession is one that would take the legal profession a long time to recover from. Now, this subject of the Kano State emirship is one that has been a really hot topic of recent. And in light of the conflicting judgments, it's an even hotter topic at this time. There's one ruling, or there's one interim junction given by the Federal High Court sitting in Kano, ordering the eviction of the reinstated Emir of Kano, and that's Sanusi. And this same Federal High Court ordered the police to ensure that all rights and privileges due to the 15th Fulani Emir of Kano, Aminu Bayero, be given to him. Now, this suit was adjourned to the 4th of June. That's one timing. And then there was the Kano State High Court who issued another interim injunction restraining the police and any other security service from evicting or harassing or arresting Sanusi, and also deposing the Emir of Kano and the other 4 dethroned emirs to stop parading themselves as emirs upon the new determination of the notice. Again, this one was adjourned to 13th of June. 2 different timings, 2 different judgments. This is a state of conflicting judgments, and this is not something that's new. This is not something that's particularly new in the Nigerian system. But when it comes to the traditional system, this traditional emirship system, this system that has existed for a long time, my question is, why is the court system so involved in this Kano emirship? Why is that the case? This system has its own succession structure. It has its own system of leadership. What exactly is the reason? Critics are talking about the fact that it seems like federal government has become an interested party and people are reading political differences into it. I'll take your thoughts, Mr. Dapo Thomas, on this one. Do you think there's any influence from the government, or this is just the judicial process taking effect?
Well, the first thing I would say is that the entire episode is very disgraceful. Very, very disgraceful. It's a national disgrace that men of caliber or men of this kind of national prestige and this kind of personality can descend to the level of tarnishing the image of the traditional institution, especially the kind of institution, the traditional institution, or the issue of emiracy, which a lot of people have respect for in the north. I know it happened in the Second Republic when Rimi dealt with Ado Bayero because he traveled out with Oni of Ife without taking approval from the government. The power struggle between the political class and the traditional institution has always been there. It has always been there. I also remember the case of Bode Thomas and the Alaafin of Oyo. You know, the politicians always believe that they are superior to the traditional rulers. This is neither here nor there. And I think the politicians derive their supremacy, notion of supremacy rather, from the fact that from that maxim, he who pays the piper dictates the tune, because it's the government that pays the traditional rulers, and as such, they expect the traditional rulers to respect them, to show respect to the politicians. Yes. However, the issue of the judges also shows something that men don't learn from history. Because if men really learn from history, I cannot say that the the NJC, has not been doing its best. I've read so many cases where judges with tainted image, with tainted, judges who gave contrary injunctions and had been penalized. And yet we still find some people at this age, at this level, judges, of high caliber, we still find them indulging in this kind of rascality. I believe that those who are found guilty, or those who should be tried, all of them in any case should be tried under this circumstance. And then when they are tried, the penalty should be very severe. The penalty should be very severe, because it's not a case of if you allow politicians to tarnish your image, to tarnish the judiciary, then you will come back to regret it, because you are the practitioners you are the practitioners. But the politicians, they will come and then they will go. You will be there for 70 years, for 70 years until you retire, or 75 in some cases. And then you want to stay long in this kind of profession, and then you are tarnishing it just like this. It's scandalous. It's scandalous. I don't think that it speaks well of the judiciary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. I'm coming back to you, Mr. Anosike. Do you agree with what he has said? Well, what is your stand on it?
For me, I'm highly disappointed with what happened or what is happening in Kanu at this point in time. The Emir of Kanu is one of the respected emirs in the north. The Emir of Kanu, the Sultan of Sokoto, It's just like the Oni of Ife. Understand me? So the emir of Kanu, that's the traditional institutions should be beyond politics. Because one, his excellency, political excellency, is just 4 years, highest 8 years.
Yes.
Understand me? Somebody like the traditional ruler of Ijabu has been there for more than 60 years. Understand me? Mm-hmm. So politicians shouldn't be the North I know before. Emirs are far more important than the politicians.
Even, yes, the governors, public officials in general.
But now they have just bastardized everything. I read a report of one APC chieftain saying that Adebayaro will be back in 2027 when they win back Kano State, which means they're now doing it if one party wins, one traditional ruler won't come. Understand me? Mm-hmm. But this is not supposed to be a tenuous thing. It's supposed to be that's a lifetime thing. Mm. Just like the Catholic Pope, even now we're having two popes alive. Understand me? So for me, what is happening there is very, very unfortunate. Then for the judiciary, our judges are now politicians. Our judges are now politicians. In Nsukka, where I grew up, I know a judge there. In front of his house, there's a very big inscription: visitors are not allowed. Understand me? Okay. In the judge house, there's a very big inscription: visitors are not allowed, because they don't relate with the people. Understand me? So that's why when they are talking of increasing their salaries, I don't object. Because they just focus, they're not contractors and so forth. But what you have now, our judges are most of the time, they mingle with politicians. And that's one politician that's boasted to me. He raised up his phone and said that this phone contains phone numbers of all the senior judges in the country, a politician. Mm. Understand me? So I'm happy that Adewanda has summoned them. Yes. Let them come and explain what really happened. Mm.
So that brings me to my next question. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Anosike. Dr. Thomas, what do you think the outcome of this summon of both Federal High Court and the Kano State High Court judges before the Chief Justice would come about? What do you think the outcome of that is going to be? Because, of course, these two conflicting judgments have influenced the perception of the people. It has influenced the way people view the legal administration, just as people, as you've said, you've called it scandalous, you've called it unfortunate, call it whatever word you will. But, of course, it has already had a negative effect, a negative dent on the perception or perspective that people have of the legal system. Now that he has summoned them, what do you think the outcome of that summon is going to be? And how will it affect the emirship status of Mohammed Sanusi II?
Well, number one, I expect him to give them a serious stress down. Tongue lashing, serious tongue lashing, serious stress down, to let them know that, one, they have brought the name of the image of the judiciary into disrepute. Two, they should ensure that they discontinue hearing those cases by appointing new judges. I do not know to what extent he can do this in Kano State, but at the Federal High Court, I believe he can do it. And even at the Kano High Court, I don't know if he has the power to reappoint, but they can discipline. He can go ahead to discipline that judge. So by the time somebody is under disciplinary action or measures have been taken against the judge, he would be unable to sit over that case again. So the Kano State government will be forced to appoint another. And if that one also fumbles, then let him also suffer the same consequence. So I expect him to tongue lash them. I expect him to also find a way to take all those cases from them, and then to sanitize the Emirates tussle, to sanitize it by way of saying, okay, this court, it does not stop him from having a kind of personal view. Personal view meaning, okay, he has known what is happening, that the High Court gave his judgment, the Federal High Court gave his own position rather. So he should know how to handle that. I don't know what legal approach he will adopt, but definitely as a senior person, as the most senior justice in the country, he should be able to know how to intervene in this kind of situation and stop further disgrace of the judiciary.
Okay, thank you for that. He talked about possibly reappointing other judges for these two courts concerning these cases, and tongue lashing, of course, disciplining them in one way or another, and sanitizing the mayorship structure as it is. And that's my question back to you. What do we expect the outcome to be? Reappointing judges, would that change the conflicting judgments?
For me, if what the Kano State House of Assembly did by amending if the real process was taken in amending the process, which brought Adebayaro in, understand? Because what Ganduje did was a kind of to dismantle the Emirates.
System, yes.
Because before they used that to have one single emir for the whole Kano. But he now created the other Emirates, making that's Bichi, Rano, and so on. That's to weakening the power of the emir.
Original Emirate, yes.
So if the right process was followed, it means that Sanusi will retain his position. Understand? But that's because it is the local government at chieftaincy affairs that deals with this issue.
Exactly.
Understand me? So if they follow the right process, it means that Adebayero has gone. Understand me? I'll have to go and wait for his turn, maybe, and even begin that to campaign for APC to win 2027 in Kano, for him that to come back. Because it has now become a political affair. This is what they did in the southeast, Imo State and Abia, by creating autonomous communities. That's weakening the powers of the kings. Understand me? Mm-hmm. Just like where I came from, we used to have there are 7 communities that made up my own town. But when Alhaji Kanu came, he created the autonomous communities and appointed the kings in all those
individual communities.
Now, Taos are becoming kings in the southeast. Understand me? Taos are becoming kings in the south because when they create these autonomous communities, they will now appoint their own people. Understand me? And the witnessing, and these people have no royal whatever in their, understand me? Because king is a royalty. Understand me? But you see Okada drivers, bouncers being appointed as kings. And that's what Ganduje did. Understand me? So if the right process was followed, it means that Adebayero has no chance of coming back.
Okay. Finally, before we round off this, because we need to move to the next story, coming back to you, Dr. Thomas, Mr. Anosike has made a very solid point about the fact that it's looking like currently the emirship is being tenured, which is not supposed to be. It's being tenured, it's being rotated, and this is what Ganduje caused, and this is the ripple effect of that action by putting Bayero in power in the very first place, which Governor Yusuf is trying to rectify, but then the influence of the courts is tarnishing that process. Where does this go? Where does this take us going forward? And by us, I mean the people of Kano State and the entire structure of emirship, being that it's highly rated, completely backed by the people, and trusted by the people, because now it looks like political hands are coming into play here?
I don't think that is going to solve any problem. You know, because these days, we are really talking about devolution of power. And when you talk of devolution of power, why should you now go back to concentrating power in a particular person, in one person? When Ganduje did it, there was no doubt that there was political motive to it. But he was wise enough to also use that opportunity to expand to devolve powers to some communities. You understand? And these communities are happy. According to one of the chiefs or one of the people in the community, he said that the kind of development they have witnessed, that the emir of, I think is Rano or maybe Bichi, you know, that the kind of development he has brought to the community is tremendous, and they will never allow a situation where the powers will now be withdrawn. Why do you want to concentrate power in one man? Kano itself is big enough, and then the 5 emirates are also governing themselves, and then you take development to the grassroots. People are happy. You know, people at the grassroots are happy. You don't have to travel 400 kilometers before you bring your request or before you bring your complaint or petition to the emir of Kano, in Kano. So if you devolve powers like that, then it's good. You can see the federal government has even gone far in ensuring devolution of power even at the center to make sense, you know, to attach meaning to devolution of power through federalism. How?
Dr. Thomas,
in the past, yes.
I understand your point of view, but I think what Mr. Anosike is saying is talking about the fact that they are putting their own people. So it's not just about devolution of power, which is all well and good in the literal aspect of things, but when there's political play, which is where the political hands he's talking about plays in, because they are now influencing the people in these places.
The problem now is not coming from those appointed in the 5 emirates. No. If the problem had come from them, then we can see that as a problem. The problem is even coming from the center. The problem is coming from these two, from the dethroned emir and the installed emir. So it's not about those people. They had no problem. They had no problem. It's the center. Now, it's the emir of Kano thing that people are concerned. I mean, that's where the trouble is coming from. So if those people had protested that they have brought some people from Kano to come and rule them in Bichi, to come and rule them in Rano, to come and rule them in this particular local government, it's a different thing. But that's not the issue. If this one had not erupted, if the issue of, if Adobayoro had not been dethroned, if he has not been dethroned, then there wouldn't be any cause for any alarm.
But also, if Bayero had also not been reinstated in the first place, this ripple effect that we're experiencing now would not exist. Now, again, I'm not for or against, but I'm trying to show you the other side, or the conflicting points of view on this particular subject. Now, I'm coming back to you, Mr. Anosike, and this will be the final subject on this, pardon me, because we need to go into the next subject of conversation. Now, when you say that, when Dr. Thomas talks about devolution of powers not being the problem, but about the fact that the concentration of powers in one person was the problem, and being that they have devoluted these powers and people can now have access to their emirs in all these different places, then why go back to what used to be when this system seems to work better and the people appreciate it?
Well, when we are talking about devolution of powers, I don't think that reducing the powers of the kings, of the emirs, of the obas are involved. Because these are royalty. Understand? Imagine saying that Awujende of Ijebu going to create another that's Awujende. they are going to protest it. Understand me? So for me, this is not the issue. And again, Adebayo is not the same kind of person as Sanusi. Understand? There are two different kind of people. Adebayo is a very humble person. He's a very quiet person. He's on the quiet side. But Sanusi is not on the quiet side. So Adebayo can accept it, but Sanusi cannot accept it. And I'm sure he was instrumental to telling Abba Yusuf dissolve those Emirates.
All right. Okay, so before we round up today, there is, this particular subject is very critical, but again, we're running out of time. But before we go, the subject of APC's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tenure, 1 year in office, is again another interesting subject to discuss. And this is off the heels of the fact that former presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar called the economic policies of the current administration a cocktail of trial and errors. Now, APC has rejected that, and they're saying that, of course, that is just driven by political envy and crass desperation for power. So do you agree with that particular school of thought? Now, again, I know this is one person's thoughts. This is just the APC speaking and firing back on what Atiku said. But I want to know your thoughts on that, Dr. Thomas, before I let you go.
Now, knowing Bola Tinubu very well, I was a special assistant for 8 years in Lagos State. And as such, I can really tell you who he is or what he can do. Whether I now agree with that approach now is a different thing entirely. You know, Bola Tinubu believes in legacy infrastructure. Legacy infrastructure, where you do roads, where you do monumental, projects.
Okay.
You understand? Where you do all these things. Where even in area of agrics, where you do things that will give you results maybe in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And that's why till today, for a very long time, everybody keeps saying, it was Tinubu that did this, it was Tinubu that did this. That's what I mean by legacy infrastructure. Things that people will can point to in future. And then the same thing with Gowon. That was what Gowon did, to the point that even as at 1991, when Babangida was opening or commissioning the third mainland bridge, everybody was still saying that it was part of Gowon's project. And meanwhile, Gowon was removed in 1975. And then everybody still keeps saying it was Gowon who did this. It was Gowon who did Kata Bridge. Gowon did Eko Bridge. Gowon did half of third mainland bridge. Okay. Gowon conceived this. Yes. So those are legacy projects. Now, and because I don't understand, if somebody is not interested or is not concerned about legacy project, why must the person go and involve himself in a project that will take 8 years to mature, 8 years to be completed, and then that will cost a trillion plus, a trillion plus. When that trillion can be used for immediate problems, to solve immediate problems and show up the national reserve. So the problem now is, which one comes first? Is it the egg or the chicken? What do we do now? Are we going to say, okay, because all these things, definitely, most of these projects definitely will yield dividends. But by the time they are going to yield dividends, will some of us still be alive? That's what some citizens are thinking. Okay. That what's the point of doing things that will yield dividends in 30 years? And then we are battling for survival this particular period.
All right. Pardon me, Dr. Thomas, I have to interrupt you there now because we're out of time and I want to hear the final thoughts from Mr. Anosike. But if you can quickly round up your line of thoughts so that I can come to him.
So I have said it before that as much as I believe that 1 year is not enough to assess somebody's tenure, somebody's government when he has 3 years left. At the same time, I want to align myself with the people that their apprehension about whether this government is capable of providing immediate palliative, immediate solution to their problems is also understandable. So that's my position, that government should find a way to do something about it.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Anosike, what are your final thoughts on this?
When people talk about Tinubu's whether 1 year is enough, this is the same one party succeeding another. Understand me? This party should have a manifesto or agenda. Understand me? So this is a continuation of the past administration. So he was part of the former administration. He was part of Buhari's administration. So saying that 1 year is not enough. Understand me? Tinubu has less than 2 years, 6 months that to stay in office, because the last 6 months is for campaign and so on and so forth. So for those that are seeking for those that are saying it is envy, whatever, what Atiku spoke the mind of 99% of Nigerians. He spoke like a statesman, and what he said is the problem that we are going through at this point in time. Every good government prioritizes the happiness of the people, and right now 99% of Nigerians are not happy. Understand me? Unless those who are pretending. Because when you check that the cost of things in the market, so somebody posted a tomato that he bought 5 pieces for 1,000 naira. Understand me? So what Atiku said is the truth.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Anosike. And of course, thank you very much to you, Dr. Dakpo Thomas. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And of course to you, Mr.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Of course, you can stay connected with us across our social media platforms on VOP TV Live. And you can catch us again, same time, on our YouTube channel, Voice of the People Television. I am Somto Ajamma. Good evening.